So let's discuss the latest. We're now joined by the spokesperson for Gauteng Health, and that is Motalatale Modiba. Mr. Modiba, thank you for being with us. It sounds like a really awful process for the families to go through, for people who think they may know somebody who died in this fire. Have more bodies been identified?
Not that we know of. We're still sitting with the original 74 number in terms of bodies that demised on the scene. And as you have rightly said, there is an additional death today of someone who passed on at one of the facilities. So we basically have 3 people that passed on at a hospital, which then takes the number to 77. So you have 74 people that were declared dead on the scene, and 3 other people that succumbed to the injuries that they had sustained. One of them passed on today at the hospital.
And at last count, we were told only around 12 bodies had been identified. So the families knew, and it was clear exactly who they were. Is that still the same?
The 12 bodies were identifiable, which means that it's people that even though they passed on, they could still recognize who they are. So as of yesterday, we had families that came through, and I think we had about 9 families that had come through to identify the 9 of the bodies, and we're still obviously awaiting 3 other families to also come through. We're hoping that 3 other families will come through to be able to identify the 3 other bodies. So we're still sitting with the 9 families that have been able to positively identify their loved ones from the 12 recognizable or identifiable bodies. The other 62 bodies, which are bodies of people that we say were unidentifiable because they've been badly burned. The police were busy with the DNA sampling because they have to take the samples from each body, the DNA samples from each body. They have concluded that process. We said yesterday that they had done a particular number and they were going to conclude it today. All the bodies that were at the forensic pathology services mortuary in Diepkloof, the police have done in terms of they're taking samples from all of those particular bodies, but also in terms of postmortems. Our forensic pathology team, the pathologists at the facility, they've completed as well doing postmortems for all the 74 bodies, including the 3 additional bodies that demised while that passed on in a hospital. They've also done a postmortem for those particular bodies. So there's been quite a lot of progress that the team has been able to make on the ground.
All right, and that is good news. It won't bring the people back. What if there is now a family that comes forward and there is this DNA data? How quick is the process for the family to show their DNA or for tests to be done and a match to be found or not?
Look, that process is the process that is run by the South African Police Services. I suppose that now that they have DNA samples for the 74 bodies, what will then happen is that when families come, they will take they'll do what is called an antemortem, which means they will take samples from swabbing from the families that present themselves. But you must remember, Francis, that when you say family, I'm not talking about an uncle, an aunt. We're talking about if it's your brother, your sister, and you must be from the same mother. So there's a criteria as well that is being utilized for the DNA samples to match. It's not just you are in the same family, therefore it's automatic. It's about siblings, the mother of the children, and so forth, in terms of when we say close family members where samples need to be taken for us to be able to get accurate results. But that process is a process that is being, we're working closely with the South African Police Services, we're working closely with Home Affairs in terms of the other processes that are dependent on their own procedures and processes. So they've been on site doing this work. So as soon as, that's why we've made the call that if you know that your loved one might have been in that particular building, we've made that call to say families need to present themselves at the Diepkloof forensic pathology services in Soweto, so that we can this can enable us to be able to trace as many families as possible. I think so far we have a number of families. I think about 69 families have actually come forth, and out of those 69 families, we managed to get about 69 names that in terms of the line list that we currently have. Because when families come and they say, we know Motalatale was in that building, what we would do then is that we would then obviously record that particular name. You might find that some name will appear twice, because some family members, sometimes you'll get people from the same family coming at different times. So we need to be able to keep that data, so that later on, as the police conclude with their processes, we're able to then cross-reference the DNA that has been taken from the bodies, and together with the antemortem samples that would have been taken from the families, so that we can then be able to match families with their loved ones who have since passed on.
All right, thank you for that update. Yes, and obviously everybody wants it to happen as quickly as possible. What a hard thing to go through for the families. That was an update from the Gauteng Health Department spokesperson, Motalatale Modiba.